We need to educate ourselves and vote wisely. We need to uphold all our responsibilities to every right we have in the Bill of Rights gives us in the Constitution. Because we have a First Amendment right to freedom of speech, but we have an obligation to not slander and libel people, to speak out against tyranny and evil around us. The Second Amendment gives the right to keep and bear arms, and our founders wisely put the militia clause at the beginning of that. And some people say, well, that means if we get a militia, we don't need a gun. No. They pointed us to our responsibility, and our responsibility is to be that militia. That's why they put it there. So we knew. I mean, yes, we gotta have those firearms. We gotta use them responsibly. We gotta keep them out of the hands of small children and mentally unstable. But we gotta use them to protect our family. We want to stand up and do that. You have a right to trial by jury of our peers. But how many of you guys try to get out of jury duty sometimes? I'm sure some people in here decide it's too inconvenient. Well, if you're the one that's convicted of something you didn't do, you're sure going to be looking for a nice jury out there that looks like you do and thinks like you do, and they understand the evidence presented to them. So that's responsibility. Every right has a responsibility. So don't just read the Constitution and think about you can't do this because it says so. No. Start taking the responsibility seriously. There's nothing there that talks about voting other than we're supposed to vote for our House of Representative members. So it's inherently a democratic process, but the word democracy is not mentioned in the Constitution. We need to vote wisely. It's very important. Now, I'm running for an office that I shouldn't even be running for. I should be appointed by our state. They wrote the 17th Amendment, and it sort of took away the states' rights at that point. A lot of people talking about the 10th Amendment, and talking about states' rights. Well, the 17th Amendment really started to emerge because if you look at our government, you know, our court system, you got a Supreme Court, but you also have state courts. You know, in the executive branch, you got the White House, we got our CEO there. We also have governors of all our states. We have two executive branches, 51, with two court systems. The House and Senate were distinctly different. The House was to be voted on, the will of the people. The Senate was to be there to protect the states' rights. That's why the states appointed senators. That's when we started losing our states' rights. Now they're all popularly elected. So what are the people that are looking for a handout going to do? They're going to vote themselves from the public treasury. They want to vote benefits. They're going to vote for people who will give them stuff. That's one of the downfalls of our country. I guess one of the biggest problems I see in the Constitution, with the Constitution part I really support, I think it's a great document. I think the amendment process to it was meant to add and enhance and augment things they missed, like giving women the right to vote, finally eliminating slavery, which the founders wanted to do in the beginning. Jefferson wanted everybody born in the U.S. to be free. That's how he wanted to get rid of slavery in a few generations. A few people fought that. Now, I submit to you that any amendment that goes against the direct language of the body of the Constitution is not proper. You know, when they say you should not lay an income tax, collect taxes disproportionately to the population, I don't think that would be a good thing. I do believe in the Constitution, and one of the flaws they had, they did not foresee the power of politicians in the future, and we need term limits. In fact, I'm a supporter of term limit, one term, a 6-year Senate term for 20. You can make a House term 6 years, one term and you're done, rotate them, vote, you know, third of them in each year, so we don't have to turn over a government. But they changed the direction we saw in year, since Obama was elected. We're going this way, now we're going that way. But I still say to you, we're meant to be balanced in the Senate. We're not meant to be anarchists or too far libertarian. We're not meant to be over here in socialism or libertarian. We're supposed to be civil. And we can all live together like that. And you can be more liberal in your lane. I'm a pretty conservative guy. I'm not going to force it on people, as long as we live within that Constitution of the Senate. Now, I decided to run, because I didn't see the parties fixing anything. I saw Washington as a whole, the Democratic Party that was sort of full speed running towards Western European socialism. And we had a Republican Party that we've all seen the last 10 years. They're skipping there. They're taking a little longer route. Maybe they'll take us 15 years, but we'll end up in the same spot. For this Republican Party, they came up with amnesty. They gave us Medicaid Part D that's been in the red since the second year of the siege. They gave us the Patriot Act, which tramples the Bill of Rights and the entire Constitution. That's the Republican Party we have now. I believe in reform. The people you see in the ballot this year for the Democrats and Republicans were picked by their corrupt parties. And I think a lot of you realize the parties are corrupt. The federal government is corrupt. Some more state government is corrupt. Your city governments, your county governments. It goes all the way down to groups that do endorse people like me. But I've called groups and they said, well, we endorsed such and such 4 months ago. I said, you didn't even know who was going to be in the ballot. Nobody filed that. How can you do that? Well, we just did what we should do. It's pro-life group endorsing a guy that is rape and incest, which should be for abortion. I'm pro-life from the get-go, conception. So I see differences in the parties, and I just didn't want to unbelieve the party. And I think they're taking us to the same place. We can try to reform them. I don't know how well that'll go over in the long run. I think we might get some central committee people elected this year, but I think the next time, the main party will still have the money. They're going to push us like flies. They're going to pack the ballots. They're going to do everything they can to keep the people right back down. We need to attack it from every angle, and that's going to be to get good, principled men in Washington, good, principled people in Central Committee, good people in state government. You know, I went to fair tax, but we can't get there. We have to amend the Constitution to get there and get rid of the income tax. But the states have to approve it by 3/4. So we have to vote people in at all levels to be able to get these things corrected. We're in a very dangerous position because we have our CEO, president, whatever you want to call him. He just wants to legislate away our rights by signing treaties with other countries or other groups. He don't figure he even needs a Congress to approve it. He just thinks he can just sign by executive order and say they're the law of the land and let the other countries pass the laws and take away our rights and say, well, I didn't do it. They did. Send us support, because they should be passing all our treaties, confirming our judges. And you want to send the same kind of people we've had down there all these years. You know, we have probably Lee Fisher going to win the Democratic nomination. He's been in state government since 1981. Our state has high income taxes, high tax burden overall. We have an unconstitutional school funding system that we've lost millions of jobs in just our state. That's the kind of guy you're going to send up there with Lee Fisher. And Rob Portman, well, he's been there 17 years in one capacity. He had 6 terms. He served 5.5 terms in Congress. Went to work for George Bush. You know, George Bush had some pretty bad policies here and there. I hope we all realize that. Portman didn't complain about any of them. He's a globalist. He was trade representative for 13 months. He actually was architect of agreements that set millions of jobs out of our country. He negotiated those agreements. He's a lawyer. He wrote them and negotiated. Our jobs are leaving because of guys like that. I'm going to protect our country. I'm going to take the oath. I take the Constitution very seriously. I'm only going to vote for constitutional legislation. When I get there, so you guys vote for me. I will go. Plan to win. 3-way race this year. I don't think the socialists stand a chance. 40% of the vote I can win. The only guy that's going to be on that ballot, it's not a politician. I'm an electrical engineer. I've done it 20 years for field service work. I've been all over this state. I've been in more factories. You'll see Rob Sportman or somebody touring a factory. I worked in the factory. I made the process lines work. I made the power go to those buildings and make them run. Half the places I worked in 1990 are on one shift, or half the buildings are empty. Almost the whole GM infrastructure in Dayton's been pulled out in Delphi. That's what NAFTA did, and CAFTA, and all these other agreements. That's what you're getting with a Rob Portman vote. And you guys are going to make your decision who you want to vote for. I understand that. But vote for good people, and vote for principles over party, so we can save our country. Because my campaign is, I like to say, we're bringing an American revolution at the ballot box. If we fail there, then someday we're going to have that revolution with blood and bullets. I don't want to go there. I don't want my children to be having to be called on to do what our ancestors already did for us.